What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Total Fight Mike. It is Thursday, February 25th of 2021. The time is 10:23 a.m. I wanted to get this out of the way first. The next time you see me, all this is going to get gone because it's ridiculous. It's not fun anymore. I don't want to see how much farther I can go. This is about as much as I can stand. So, the last time we saw each other, we were talking about UFC Lewis versus Blades. I've actually had the pleasure of, I'm going to keep the anonymity of this person, but I've actually had the pleasure and honor of actually getting to know somebody who knew Curtis Blades personally. I've had the time to train with him, break bread with him, speak with him, seen him fight, train. Already said that. But I just wanted to get that little disclaimer out of the way. When you guys click on this channel, I don't want you guys to think about predictions because I don't do predictions. Who's to say? If two men or two women step into the cage or the ring or the octagon, they got two arms and two legs. There's a 50-50 shot on any given night. Anybody could be a champion. So, with that disclaimer, a huge congratulations to Derek Lewis and, Curtis Blades. Sorry if you guys could hear my dog barking, but Curtis Blades, Illinois' own, please keep your head up. Only 30 years old. Big career ahead of you. Huge fan. That was a devastating knockout by Derek Lewis. That was a devastating uppercut by Derek Lewis. And about that, Curtis Blades was winning too. And you had seen in his last two fights against Volkov and Junior Dos Santos his full, well-rounded mixed martial arts game, right? He can strike. He can utilize fakes and feints. Talking about Blades here, he could cut angles very well. He could fake with the takedown and come with a knockout punch. He can dig deep, and when the stand-up isn't going his way, he could absolutely utilize his takedowns and his wrestling ability to dictate where the fight takes place. But in the heavyweight division, you're walking around nearly 300 pounds. I mean, the narrative the big guys are slow is nonsense. That is nonsense. Big guys are absolutely fast. Someone like Derek Lewis landing on you, it's devastating. He's a knockout artist. I believe he's on a 4-fight winning streak. And at 35 years old, you hear a lot about heavyweights kind of getting better with age. When heavyweights become more ripe with experience, depending on the damage that they've taken, if they come from a wrestling background, they could have used their wrestling quite a bit to have elongated their careers. You'll see that in various, statistically speaking, you'll see that in various weight classes. A lot of guys that come from wrestling backgrounds that have stuck to their bread and butter, their wrestling, usually, not always, usually will add longevity to their careers because, again, they're able to dictate where the fight takes place, and they're able to sustain a lot less punishment. And, that is exactly what happened. So this weekend is Cyril Gane versus Jorginho Rozenstruik. And Jorginho Rozenstruik and Cyril Gane, or Gane, however you pronounce it, two world-class kickboxers. Cyril Gane's French, comes from that Savate-style kickboxing. If you guys don't know anything about Savate, Savate is very much placement martial art. Excuse me. It's a kickboxing martial art. They wear these weird long leotards or singlets, excuse me. These weird long singlets. They go all the way down to their feet. They strap around their shoes. They have very thin tennis shoes. They utilize those shoes to kick with too. Savate trained kickboxers are meant for accuracy, laser pinpoint accuracy. Um, if you look at the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, if you've read the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, you'll see in there that Bruce Lee has borrowed some concepts from Western boxing and French Savate, implemented into his Jeet Kune Do style. That's where Cyril Gane comes from. That's why he's undefeated, because technique comes first. If you look at his unfortunately, Junior Dos Santos hasn't had the best run at heavyweight for a while now, but or for a little bit now, but it's been a few years since Junior Dos Santos has had a win. But they keep giving him these young, hungry monsters, man, that are just coming to win, that are coming for that championship gold, that if they get a win over Junior Dos Santos, who's a former champion, that basically gauges where they are in the division, or where they are skill set wise, because Junior Dos Santos, phenomenal footwork, for a phenomenal pure boxer when it comes to mixed martial arts. He does have some kicking ability, very heavy kicking ability. He knocked out Mark Hunt with a spinning wheel kick that he actually landed on his quad with, which is strange. But they're not doing Junior Dos Santos any favors. And you saw that when Cyril Gane fought Junior Dos Santos. He didn't knock him out until the second round, but you saw Cyril Gane wasn't going out there to try and blow him out of the water, which is something that you will see Jairzinho Rozenstruik be much more willing to do, is to throw caution to the wind and throw himself into the fire. Cyril Gane is a little bit more cerebral than that, even though Jairzinho Rozenstruik has a little bit under 80 kickboxing bouts, and just under 14 mixed martial arts bouts. This Saturday's main event is going to be a high-level kickboxing bout. Whoever wins this fight, both of these guys are top 10. They could be cracking top 5. One more win for either of these guys. If either of these guys win this bout, they could be knocking on the door for a title shot. And you're right there with Francis Ngannou. Stipe Miocic is a beast. There's Augusto Sakai. Derek Lewis, like I said, Curtis Blades isn't gone, man. The heavyweight division is popping right now. Blagoy Ivanov, even though he hasn't competed in a little bit, the former WSOF heavyweight champion, there's quite a bit going on in the heavyweight division as far as the UFC is concerned. And even outside of the UFC, the light heavyweight division in Bellator, that's a pretty hefty roster, man. Phenomenal roster. Kind of to piggyback off of that a little bit, Bellator's talent pool, especially their high-level talent pool, is starting to shape up quite a bit. Their lightweight division looks good. Their bantamweight division looks good. Their light heavyweights are looking good. They just finished their heavyweight tournament, which Ryan Bader was the winner of, the former Ultimate Fighter winner himself. So there's a lot going on in the world of combat sports. To transition to Saturday a little bit, alongside the UFC bout, there's going to be a boxing bout that is taking place. It was Canelo Alvarez is taking on a gentleman by the name of Yildirim. Yildirim is Turkish. He's a very heavy-handed fighter. He's only got 2 losses on his record. One of them is to Chris Eubank Jr. If you look at the odds, geez, I mean, I'm not an odds person or anything, or by any way, shape, or form, but I mean, being an underdog and being a favorite is a part of the fight game, so we are going to talk about it here. Canelo has been scheduled for a bout with Billy Joe Saunders sometime in the summer. Could be early summer or midsummer. You would have to imagine that it would take place during Cinco de Mayo for the sake of Canelo Alvarez being on that main event. This fight's going to take place in Florida. Everybody thinks that Canelo Alvarez is supposed to walk over this guy. Yildirim is a heavy-handed Turkish boxer. Got hooking combinations. He's got knockout power in each of his hands. He loves to come forward. If you look at the style of Yildirim, it is basically tailor-made for somebody like the style of Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is a Mexican fighter that does not fight like a Mexican boxer. Loves to utilize angles, fakes and feints, head movement, superior footwork. His boxing IQ is phenomenal. It's unparalleled. His only loss was to Floyd Mayweather, and even if you watch them leading into that fight only gave him more experience. He wasn't finished. He stayed there with Floyd Mayweather for all 12 rounds, and he completely went back to the drawing board and reshaped his game and reshaped his style. With Yildirim wanting to come forward against Canelo Alvarez, you would have to imagine that Canelo Alvarez is going to be looking for that knockout shot, and he's going to be looking for counter punches. It's going to be interesting to see, because all of those things is something that are things that Billy Joe Saunders is good at himself. So, I mean, you should expect that he would. Canelo Alvarez wins this fight, and then he gets to Billy Joe Saunders. That is going to be a very interesting contrast in styles. So we will very much see what happens next. There's quite a few that went on. There's quite a few boxing events that went on this past weekend. The return of Adrian Broner against a gentleman by the name of Giovanni Santiago from Puerto Rico. Was undefeated at 14-0. That fight was kind of goofy. It was lackluster, but Adrian Broner got it done. The scoring was horrendous. We're not even going to talk about that. But, Adrian Broner went in there and did his job. He got it done. Santiago was putting together combinations, but a lot of those combinations and punches were blocked by Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner opened up cuts underneath both of the eyes of Giovanni Santiago, and honestly, it looked like the power was too much for Santiago to handle against Adrian Broner. Thing about that fight is that if you've watched Adrian Broner, if you're a fan of Adrian Broner, you have the same criticism in this fight that you had in his previous other fights, or his previous other losses. Specifically, he didn't throw a lot of volume. He didn't put together combinations. He kind of stood against the ropes a little bit too long. You never know with how the judges are going to score a 12-round fight. If your back is against the ropes the entire time while your opponent is throwing punches at you, it doesn't make you look like a winner. But Adrian Broner was able to put together punches that were able to damage Santiago. That's how he was able to get it done. And good for Adrian Broner to come back after, was it 2.5 years? About a year and a half, 2 years, somewhere around there. That's a big thing. He wants to stay active. He got in great shape for this fight. Got back down to 147 pounds. I believe that's super featherweight. Good for him. Good for Adrian Broner. Now, there was another fight. It was a top-ranked fight. It was Burchelt versus Oscar. And my goodness, give me 1 second. Was Miguel Burchelt and Oscar Valdez. So, Miguel, I didn't remember their first names. I just only remember seeing their last names. Miguel Burchelt was the champion at super featherweight. And Oscar Valdez was undefeated coming in. Man, this is just one of those fights where Burchelt was the champion at 147 pounds, I believe. That is super featherweight. And was defending his title against the undefeated Oscar Valdez. And the thing about Miguel Burchelt, of course, I didn't remember his first name, but I'd seen him fight leading up to that bout. He utilizes fakes and feints very well. He doesn't like to hang on the back of the ropes. He likes to move forward and cut angles. He actually likes to cut off his opponent's movement by utilizing the jab and power shots wherever his opponent is moving towards. Oscar Valdez just nullified all of that moving backwards. It was pretty interesting to watch somebody throw power shots, hooking power shots moving backwards. You haven't seen that since James Toney or Bernard Hopkins. Or even Manny Pacquiao when he's boxing in the clinch up against when his back is up against the ropes. That's something in Manny Pacquiao's game that you very rarely see. Oscar Valdez utilized that technique phenomenally. And let me see what round. I believe it was the 9th or 10th round where Miguel Berchelt was hurt early in the fight. I believe rounds 3 or 4, the 3rd or 4th round. It was a 3 or 4 hooking combination that actually dropped Miguel Berchelt. He got up for the count, but you could see that he was wobbly, that he was on Queer Street with his legs. It took him a lot to rally back, but he did, and when he did, he was doing everything that he could to put the pressure on Oscar Valdez. And Oscar Valdez was keeping his composure, utilizing his footwork and his superior defense, and trying to pick his shots. There was this one moment where Miguel Berchelt was just swinging recklessly, and Oscar Valdez just dipped out of the way and utilized this perfectly placed overhand right that just dropped Miguel Berchelt, and it was incredible. He was flatlined. It was face down, just walk away knockout. It was no way he was going to get it from that standing 8 count. That was devastating knockout. If you see somebody just flatline face forward like that, there's no need for a count. It's over. It is completely 100% over. Keep an eye on that guy, Oscar Valdez. Phenomenal boxer, a very smart fighter. He's got knockout power. Undefeated. Excuse me, guys. Keep an eye on that guy. So next weekend, I believe it is March 6th, and I cannot contain my excitement. UFC 260 or UFC 259. Give me 1 second, guys. 4 champions, 3 title fights. Israel Adesanya, the UFC middleweight champion, is moving up to take on Jan Blachowicz, the light heavyweight champion who just knocked out Dominic Reyes to capture the vacated title that John Jones had vacated to move up to heavyweight. We have Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson, and also, give me 1 second, guys. Can't remember what the other one was. It was UFC 259. The bantamweight division. Peter Yan is taking on Aljamain Sterling. My goodness, I can't believe I forgot about that fight. I forgot that fight was on that card. I thought it was on another card entirely. You know what it was? I thought it was women's bantamweight because Valentina... No, that's women's flyweight. The women's flyweight just announced that Valentina Shevchenko, the women's flyweight champion, will be defending her title against the former 150-pound champion, the strawweight champion, and Jessica Andrade. That's going to be an interesting fight. Phenomenal fight. Power strikes versus cerebral kickboxing. It's going to be a phenomenal fight. But I'm going to try and do a preview with a couple of guests for UFC 259. So it is Peter Yan defending his bantamweight title against Aljamain Sterling, who looked hot against freaking Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen just knocked out Frankie Edgar with that vicious flying knee. It was devastating. It was a devastating knockout. 2 of the best at 135 pounds are going to be challenging for that title. Phenomenal fight. Amanda Nunes is going to be defending her second title at 10 pounds up at 145 pounds women's featherweight against the former Invicta featherweight champion Megan Anderson. Megan Anderson actually trains in St. Louis, Missouri at MMA Glory with guys like James Krause. So with Amanda Nunes coming from American Top Team, it's going to be a very interesting clash in minds between James Krause and Mike Thomas Brown, the former WEC featherweight champion. Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya. That is that's very much power versus technique. Israel Adesanya has fought as heavy as heavyweight in his kickboxing bouts. But in this bout, you might actually see Jan Blachowicz utilize a lot more of a ground game in this fight. Try to use more of his size. Um, you'd have to imagine if you were a bigger guy fighting a skinnier, smaller Izzat Adesanya, that you would want to utilize your physical gifts to try and nullify his offense. But word through the grapevine is, man, Izzat Adesanya is strong. He may look skinny and small, but he is strong, very strong. Watching the Brendan Schaub's his Eat Talk show, Izzat Adesanya was on that, and they were standing next to each other, Brendan Schaub and Izzat Adesanya. Izzat Adesanya is a big guy, and according to him, it doesn't have to take much for him to cut to middleweight. So very interesting contrast in frames. Like I said, to preview that one, I'm going to try and get a guest, but we will see. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode of the Total Fight Mike. Thank you to my editor, Patrick Lesnicki, at Lesnicki Productions. I will see you guys in the sequel. I just got news that hopefully in August, Total Fight Challenge will be hosting an event at Cicero Stadium in Cicero, Illinois. So hopefully you will catch me cage side for that. I will see you guys in the possible sequel. Bye, everybody.